Good evening, everyone. This is Two Way, and this is the program we call Two Way Tonight. Thank you for being here. I'm Mark Halperin. Kind of a crazy day for me. Won't concern you with that, but a strange news day. Don't know if it's because it's holiday season or because the Congress is Senate and House are not fully engaged, or maybe it's just the centrifugal pull of the Epstein story. But not much news outside of Epstein today. There's some, and we'll get to it. But it's not the full news day that we've seen. Most of the developments today relate to the Epstein saga, the Epstein story, and I spend a lot of my day feeling queries from people wanting to know what I know, which is very flattering, but also extremely time consuming. And many people, including many members of the two-way community, want this Epstein story busted wide open. They want to know what's going on, what's the real deal, what's behind the scenes, what's going motivating the players in the arena. And it's a bit of a mystery, I have to say. So we'll cover all that with the House vote expected tomorrow and uh, a stampede, probably not unexpected. Number one, please. Politico reports what everybody who's doing reporting on the Hill is hearing. This is the headline for those of you watching on the podcast. By the way, this program is available as a podcast. Republicans quickly coalesce behind Epstein bill after Trump backs it. Two prominent House committee chairs are among the GOP lawmakers now backing legislation. That includes Mr. Uh, huh, what's his name from Ohio, the wrestling guy. What's the guy's name? It's just crazy how I can't remember anybody's name. You guys know who I mean. Anyway, uh,
Jim Jordan?
Jim Jordan, thank you. Jim Jordan is amongst those now saying they'll support it, and it's going to be interesting to see what members of leadership support this measure. But it's a crazy situation, what's happened, and Donald Trump continues to defy political gravity. A normal president who flip flopped 180 degrees, whipping strenuously against signing the discharge position, and then saying he supports the bill. A normal president would have had some shrapnel hitting them, at least, if not a serious political crisis. But Donald Trump continues to defy norms of political physics. Anyway, so we'll get to that story, and then there's some other developments to talk about for sure, including a stuff related to UN, the United Nations, and Israel, Venezuela, still very much in the news, Saudi Arabia, Indiana, Ted Cruz, lots to get to, and we'll get to it all. And then our great guest is here, Martin O'Malley. You know, the younger people here will say, well, Governor of Maryland, uh, politically talented, limitless future possibilities, great smile that lights up a room. Bill Clinton looks at that governor and says, future of the Democratic Party. And if you're a younger person, you might say, well, Wes Moore. Well, long before Wes Moore, when Wes Moore was probably in junior high school, Martin O'Malley, mayor of Baltimore, then governor of Maryland, same deal. Extraordinarily talented guy. And then he ran for president. Wonder how many of you know Martin O'Malley ran for president. In 2016, three Democrats basically ran: Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, and Martin O'Malley. And he campaigned with what they call in Annapolis a joie de vivre, and hard to run against those two titans of the Democratic Party. I saw Bernie Sanders one of his advisors today on TV saying Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician in America today. And there's some polling data that suggests that. And of course, Hillary Clinton is a massive battleship of a political force. And yet Martin O'Malley entered the race. And if you saw his finest moments in that race, I'm not just counting when he played in his band in Des Moines, you'd see a joie de vivre and someone in public life for all the right reasons. And then he went on to run the Social Security Administration in the Biden administration. And again, Wes Moore, whatever. This guy was a leading voice in the Democratic Party for so long and remains so today. And he's our guest tonight. And we'll bring him in just a moment. We're going to talk about all manner of things with him, including the federal budget, which is an important topic that doesn't ever get covered enough. He'll be here in just a moment, so stand by for that. Quick word for one of our sponsors. The good folks at Cozy Earth are doing a crazy thing right now. They're having Black Friday Cozy Earth sale every day. Won't last forever, but right now, 40% off site wide on the sheets, the pillows, cases, the pajamas, the bubble cuddle blanket, the jogger pants, all available now for 40% off. Go to cozyearth.com, use the promo code TWOWAY for 40% off. Kind of an incredible opportunity for you to buy stuff for yourself. Well, it keeps you cool in summer, but as we said before, it keeps you warm in winter, and you need to be ready to stay warm. So go to cozyearth.com and do yourself a favor, get 40% off. This is an opportunity. I wouldn't say of a lifetime necessarily, but if you haven't yet bought the Cozy Earth, for instance, the pants, you know I'm a big fan. Do that now, 40% off. Holiday shopping, get it done. Lickety split with Cozy Earth, cozyearth.com. Wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. Thank you for your attention to that matter. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a man who could talk about anything and everything, because that's just the way he's built. Martin O'Malley, Marylander. Governor, welcome in. Unmute if you would.
I am unmuted.
Okay. I hope you weren't here for that cushy and gushy introduction because we'd both be embarrassed.
I was here for that.
Yeah, no, I know you were. I waited till you got here. Very honored to have you here, Governor, and grateful to you. And what do you think of that?
Good to see you again, Mark.
What do you think of that kid, Wes Moore?
We were all, my whole family supported him.
Yeah.
We were glad to have a Democratic governor after 8 years of going backwards under Larry Hogan, which most people nationally don't realize he was the most corrupt governor in modern Maryland history, which is saying a lot.
What kind of corruption are you alleging?
It was all real estate kickback stuff. He's the only governor in the modern history of our state to make himself a multimillionaire while in office.
Now,
40% of the recipients of affordable housing developer tax credits went to paying clients of his, listed as his clients on his website. The largest waiver to destroy wetlands in Maryland, ever since they were put off limits to development back in the early 70s, was granted by the Board of Public Works, which is the governor, the treasurer, and the comptroller. After it was rejected twice, and every department rejected it, it was on Kent Island. Larry Hogan made sure it was scheduled for a date that he was out of town, and his lieutenant governor approved that largest waiver ever granted, and it was for a for-profit developer that he listed on his family's website as right there on the list for everybody to see. So it was horrible. It was appalling. It was in plain sight. And as everybody would say, it wasn't as bad as Donald Trump. So we were glad when Wes Moore came in. There was a sweeping ethics reform bill that was passed unanimously by Democrats and Republicans to prohibit any future governor from running through the giant hole in Maryland's ethics laws that somehow allowed that. Even though he was told he had to put his interests in a blind trust, he responded that, well, his interests are of an ongoing business nature, so they're not amenable to a blind trust. So Wes Moore actually put his assets in a truly blind trust, and we're glad that some ethics has been restored to the governor's office in Maryland, so we're glad he's there.
I have to say, I covered Governor Hogan pretty extensively. I read the press about him quite a bit. I vaguely remember one of his aides was indicted for something. I can't remember who that was.
An ugly thing. He got a bunch of kickbacks, and then he committed suicide by FBI.
Yeah, but none of
kickbacks. He wasn't getting kickbacks. He says that he got Larry Hogan's permission to get a huge exit bonus from a quasi-governmental entity called the Maryland Environmental Services Agency. And then Larry Hogan said, no, I never did agree to that. And Larry Hogan also said, as soon as he told me I agreed to that, my first call was to my criminal defense attorney.
So here's my question for you, Governor, because you're a very careful man in my experience. I've not heard of any of the allegations that you raised against Governor Hogan. Were these things written about anywhere?
Yes, they were. It was written by Eric Cortellessa in Time Magazine shortly before the last election, when Eric was at Washingtonian Magazine before the election. He wrote a very well documented thing.
But
Uh,
did the Washington Post or Baltimore Sun cover any of this?
no, they never did. And that's a really good question.
Huh.
The coverage of state government has pretty much evaporated. I don't think that's unique in Maryland.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
it
is.
used to
That's true.
be it used to be in the basement of the State House, which I'm sure you're familiar with. The whole what is that left south wing of
Yeah. I've been in
State
there.
House
I was there once.
with
Old school.
reporters,
Yeah.
old school stuff.
Yeah.
Cubicles sitting on
Yeah.
top of each other's desks.
Yeah.
You don't find a soul there anymore. And so, for whatever reason, his opponent in his first election, well, that was his first election. He wasn't raking in the money like that. But in the second one, Ben Jealous, for whatever reason, chose not to hit him on it.
Yeah.
And New Republic did an article too. Their
Okay.
headline was called,
I'm gonna go look it up because
oh,
again I followed him pretty closely.
yeah,
I don't
their
remember any of it.
headline was called "Meet the Most Popular Crook in America."
Okay. I'm gonna go look for that. Governor, what are you up to now that you're no longer running Social Security for America?
Yeah, I'm doing a number of things, doing some consulting, keeping body and soul together. Katie and I have our very first grandchild. So
Congratulations.
thank
Live nearby or no?
they do. They live a few only a few miles away in that small town
Amazing.
south of Baltimore, and which most people call Washington. And so those are some of the things I'm doing. And Mark, strangely enough, even though Donald Trump was the first Republican candidate in modern history to draw to even with the Democrats on the question of who do you trust most to protect Social Security, he really unleashed the Doge dogs on that already greatly, staff depleted agency. When I was there, I wasn't asked by President Biden to go there because things were just, peaches and cream. On the contrary, Congress had reduced their staffing to a 50-year low, even as baby boomers. Dare I say you and I are baby boomers? I don't know. You're younger than me. Are you a baby boomer?
I am, sir.
Okay. Well, even though baby boomers were swelling the ranks of the agency to an all-time high, Congress had effectively reduced their staffing to a 50-year low, cutting by more than $4 billion over President Biden's time there, the staffing he had put in his budget. And then the Doge dogs, Elon Musk and company, were unleashed on the agency. So I found myself in a position of speaking out publicly against the attacks on Social Security, uh, and more publicly than I ever did when I was actually the commissioner. And fortunately, we've been able to fend off some of the deeper cuts at Social Security. They had wanted to cut its IT staffing by 50%. And when alarms were rung, and people, including Mike Astrew, George Bush's former commissioner, said, hey, the recklessness and the depth of these cuts are putting benefits at risk, they backed off. And we've seen them back off a couple times on that. So that's what I've spent, a lot of time, and certainly in the early half of the year. They've done their damnedest now to keep it off the headlines, but the agency is struggling, and there's usually a new threat coming up on the horizon. The latest one is, well, two of them actually. They announced that they were going to cut off paper checks to the 500,000 Americans
Right.
who still get their benefits in paper. They appear to have backed off on that
I think
for
they
the
have.
time being.
Yeah.
They uh, uh, they haven't officially retracted that. And The other one they have on the horizon is a regulation that would effectively reduce the number of disability allowances for people over 50 who now, for policy reasons, um, some deference is given to age when making the determination under the statute that's been in existence since 1953. So those are a few of the things I'm doing. To answer your most urgent question, am I still playing in the band? No, I'm not still playing in the band.
No,
Uh,
never.
but you can find all my stuff on Spotify, and every now and again I pick up the guitar, and I'm particularly enjoying Jesse Wells on
Yeah.
who's out there.
Yeah, very talented. Couple things. First of all, I don't read the chat, but I do glance at it. Technically, it's true. I'm not a baby boomer. I missed it by 1 year. But the reason I say yes is because my son says to me all the time, okay, boomer. So I assume that means I qualify. Governor, I just want to follow up with you on Social Security a bit. And again, if you want to get in the conversation with Governor O'Malley, please raise your hand. I'm critical of both parties on Social Security because it's going to require bipartisan steps to save the program. And defending the status quo, which many in your party do, is not saving the program. So if Martin O'Malley were king of the world and could just make the changes necessary to save the program, to have it fully funded for 50 years or whatever would be prudent, what are the changes you would make to preserve the program?
Yeah, it's actually fairly straightforward. In fact, uh, when I ran for president, Mark, I proposed scrapping the cap for income above 250,000. Indulge me a second
Yes,
here.
sir.
Uh, Congress, every some, 30 years, has to make an adjustment to what is a 75-year forecast for Social Security. I don't operate on a 75-year forecast. I suspect you don't operate on a 75-year forecast, but Social Security does. So periodically, Congress has to re-examine that forecast, make allowances for puts and takes for things that happened in the interim. So uh, when people say, even the Washington Post had a headline that was grossly inaccurate. When people say Social Security to go totally bankrupt by 2033, what they're actually talking about in this pay as you go program is that the surplus built up intentionally since 1982 to cover the golden years of us baby boomers, not you, but me, and people older than me, before we go on to our eternal reward. That surplus has been depleted faster than they thought in 1982.
Yep.
But the reason for that is something totally within our control. The reason for that is income inequality after 1982 pushed increased earnings into the top 6% of American households. And most people don't know, because most of us don't make more than 170,000, that any dollar we make over 170,000, roughly, I'm rounding for this year, Social Security doesn't apply to that.
Yeah.
So that leads to what most Americans, the 80% of us, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, who want Social Security to be made stronger and expect our full 100% of our benefits, not 80% of it, uh, to say that's not fair. That somebody who is a janitor, say in Trump Towers, has something taken out of his or her paycheck every 2 weeks for the entire year, whereas the owner of Trump Tower stops paying in about 3 seconds after the ball falls in
Right.
Times Square. Another way to say that, which might be simpler, is that a family of 107 that makes 170,000 pays the same 11,000 into Social Security as a single person making 170 million pays into Social Security. So, for the long-term ability of Social Security to pay 100% benefits, we have to remove that cap. And people can debate, well, is that once you make more than 400,000, as President Biden indicated? Is it 250,000, as I proposed way back in yesteryear in 2016? But it is math, and it's a totally
Yeah.
solvable problem.
Would that one change make the program solvent?
It would make it solvent for the far future.
Yeah.
Your definition of solvent is most people's definition, which is the ability to pay 100%
Yeah.
of benefits
Yeah.
for decades ahead.
Yeah.
You won't solve it for a 75-year forecast. You'd have to do some other things
Right.
like Sheldon Whitehouse proposes in his bill. But for the far future, what you and I would consider the
Right.
far future, which is another 20 to 30 years,
Right.
yes.
Many in your party and many who support unions as you do have opposed what others have recommended, raise the retirement age, given that people live longer, work longer. Would that be a sensible addition as well?
I don't think that would get you there, and the actuaries don't believe that that would get you there either. We did raise the retirement age back, when I say we, I was in college then, and over pitchers of beer saying Social Security would never be there for us boys, and yet it's there, and I'm 63. So we did raise the age once. Here's the rub with that, Mark. Uh, uh, Life expectancy for some of us is going up. But for people who work outdoors, who work with their bodies, who do hard labor, it's really not going up. So what you're essentially would be doing by raising that retirement age is denying them benefits for what is a shorter lifespan. For example, I was in Pine Ridge, Native American reservation in South Dakota, and the life expectancy for a male on Pine Ridge is 42 years. And when Bobby Kennedy, the real Bobby Kennedy, Sr., visited there in 1968, it was also 48 years. So the real thing, and I think there's John Larson, Congressman Larson, introduces this bill every year. I think he's up to 200 sponsors on scrapping the cap over $250,000,
Yeah.
and it would get you there. Can I say one other thing about how the program operates?
Yes,
Because some
sir.
other people don't.
It's very important.
I was ran into a young guy at the gym, and he was seeing all the stuff about Doge and worries that Trump wanted to liquidate the program or end it. He said, "But I'd get my money back, right? Like from my account."
Right.
I said, "No, dude, that's not
Right.
the way it
Yeah.
works. Like
Yeah.
every penny you paid in last year
Right.
yeah, went out of the system to pay benefits.
Right.
That doesn't make it a Ponzi scheme.
Right.
That makes it a
That's
generational
yeah.
promise,
Right.
much like insurance.
Right.
When you need it, it's there for you because of the premiums paid in.
Right.
So that's the way this works. And younger people stand to get screwed worse than people that are current beneficiaries
Right.
because not only will they have paid in for the 10 years and potentially not get the benefit out of it, they'll also have grandma moving into their basement if we're unable to make 100% of benefits.
Right. Ask you about one other solution that's often proposed, or proposed solution. President Bush pushed it, whether you call it privatization or personal savings account. There's a lot of people, including some Democrats, who say invest the money in the market rather than just let it sit in banks and earn a little bit of interest. Invest in the market, make that optional for people, maybe make it even additional to the guaranteed benefit on top of the guaranteed benefit. Is it a mistake to not have the Social Security system benefit from the magic of compound interest?
It is. This was an issue much debated back in 1983.
Mm-hmm.
And counterintuitively, you might be surprised, Mark, to remember that it was actually Republicans in the House
Mm-hmm.
who did not want big government controlling that huge amount of money. Keep in mind, Social Security, the old the story, why do you rob? They asked the bank robber why you rob banks. It's
Where
because
the money is, yeah.
it is the only agency that has what is now a $2.6 trillion surplus. And it was actually the Republican Party that said, we don't want, for example, a Democratic presidency, administration saying, we're only going to invest in the market in companies we agree with
Right.
that fill in the policy blank, whether
Yeah.
it's divesting in South Africa, whether it's green energy
Yeah.
and not fossil
But
fuels.
they're schemes to sort of avoid those choices and make it more blind. But
There could be for a portion of that.
yeah.
However, if we had our money, if Social Security's largesse, depending on how much we're talking about here, had been invested when the crash happened in 2007, that would have been a really bad thing for people and would have greatly advanced.
Yeah, but if you give them their guaranteed benefit, but allow them to invest a portion above that in the market,
Yeah,
then yeah,
uh, Secretary Bessent, bragged that they had baked into the big ugly bill for billionaires something that were called Trump bonds for babies,
yeah,
where the parents $1,000
yeah,
provided to invest in the market.
yeah,
Now, they haven't done the regulations to tell you what companies you're allowed to
yeah.
invest in the
It's
market.
complicated.
But
Yeah,
let's set that aside for
yeah,
us. And what Bessent said was the quiet thing out loud. He said, this is a backdoor way to privatize Social Security.
he kind of took it back, but
Now, when I was governor of Maryland, like all governors, our state pension system has some really safe investments, like the full faith and credit of the United States
yeah,
of America. And we also invest in the market. And
yeah,
I was trained not to take a position on that as Secretary or rather, Commissioner of Social Security. That's a policy question that people can debate. But there's something different happening now. And that is, I believe, a full-on push to not just privatize or diversify, let's call it
yeah.
diversify
There you go.
investment.
Yeah,
Uh, it is, I believe they're going in a much more wholesale
yeah,
approach. I do believe They want to wreck the reputation of the system with big lies, like it's rife with waste, fraud, and abuse. Immigrants are driving it bankrupt
Right.
when they're actually prohibited from receiving anything. And you know what? The fact that Doge stole, expropriated, made a copy of all of the personal data of every American and put it in their own personal cloud uh, would lead some to believe that they are building an alternative platform for the one we have now to pay those benefits. And more recently, we saw that the current commissioner's former company, Pfizer, got the contract after stepping over the winning bidder and the runner-up to administer the very debit cards that he's telling people who had received paper checks that they need to go and get.
A couple things. Thank you for all that. The technology of the Social Security Administration needs to be updated, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
Yep.
so they at least have the right
It
idea.
does work.
Is huh?
It does work.
Yeah. Is
Never
the
missed a payment
understood? Never
in
missed
100
one.
years.
I agree. But like with Scotch tape and twine and MacGyver, uh,
And a lot of expert people. I
yeah.
mean, it's like
Yep.
2,000 apps,
Yeah.
applications built on
Yeah.
top of that
Yeah.
database.
Is the O'Malley family invested in the stock market?
No, not yet. We haven't made enough money to invest in
Yeah.
this.
What about through your 401k and other retirement
I
accounts?
have a 401k. I mean, I'm fortunate that I got, having served in, as governor of Maryland, I do have a pension from having served as governor. But no, I don't have any stock investments.
Even
Actually,
through
would have been.
even through a retirement account.
No, I don't
Yeah.
have a retirement account. Probably, and hopefully in the next 10 years, I'll be able to work in the private sector and maybe get one, Mark.
Okay.
Um,
How do you use AI in your life now?
how do I use AI? I don't use it a whole hell of a lot, quite honestly. I
Okay.
suppose it's attached to when I do Google questions, and it saves me a little bit of time and having to click more reputable things
Right.
and research. I don't use it too much. At the
Mark.
Social Security Administration, we were starting to use it. One of the things that AI is very good at is taking rules and making sense of them, and
Right.
also pointing out when rules are contradictory. As you might imagine, there's 90 years of policy on top of policy at Social Security. So we were moving fast on that. The other thing that we were moving fast on was we created a tool called Imagine that allowed us to go through 1,000 pages of personal health records for an applicant for a disability and be able to help curate through that to guide the examiner's eyes to the right pages where those things were listed
Right.
and to be able to see that, hey, this one looks like to be 70% like an allowance that the machine has looked at in
Right.
other.
Yeah. Got it. All right. Let's run through some news of the day with the governor. He's a big fan of news. The Epstein story, very big. It becomes clear that the House is going to overwhelmingly pass what's been brought to the floor probably tomorrow by the discharge petition. And Senator Thune is now appearing a little bit unclear about what he plans to do after that. Here's the President of the United States today in the Oval Office talking at some length about the Epstein matter. And the theme of the White House today has been this is all a big Democratic problem. It's got nothing to do with Donald Trump or the Republican Party. Number two, please.
That's what I want. We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats. You look at this Reid Hoffman, you look at Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, they went to his island all the time, and many others, they're all Democrats. All I want is I want for people to recognize the great job that I've done on pricing, on affordability, because we brought prices way down, but they're going way lower, on energy, on ending 8 wars and another one coming pretty soon, I believe. We've done a great job. And I hate to see that deflect from the great job we've done. So I'm all for it. You know, we've already given 50,000 pages. You do know that. Unfortunately, like with the Kennedy situation, with the Martin Luther King situation, not to put Jeffrey Epstein in the same category, but no matter what we give, it's never enough. You know, with Kennedy, we gave everything and it wasn't enough. With Martin Luther King, we gave everything and it's never enough. We've already given, I believe the number is 50,000 pages, 50,000 pages. And it's just a Russia hoax as it pertains to the Republicans. Now, I believe that some of the people that we mentioned are being looked at very seriously for their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, but they were with him all the time. I wasn't at all. And we'll see what happens. What I just don't want Epstein to do is detract from the great success of the Republican Party, including the fact that the Democrats are totally blamed for the shutdown. You know, they cost our country hundreds of billions of dollars with that, at a lot of inconvenience. So I'm for I don't. They can do whatever they want. We'll give them everything. Sure, I would. Let the Senate look at it. Let anybody look at it. But don't talk about it too much, because honestly, I don't want to take it away from us. It's really a Democrat problem. The Democrats were Epstein's friends, all of them. And it's a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax. And I don't want to take it away from really the greatness of what the Republican Party has accomplished over the last period of time.
So the White House put out a long press release today, read like something that might come from the Republican National Committee, but your tax dollars at work here. This is number 3. Long press release, headline, where is Democrats' transparency on Epstein? And it runs through, you can just scroll through here, a number of news reports that tie certain Democrats, like President Clinton, like Larry Summers, they say Katie Couric is a Democrat, to Epstein, Reid Hoffman, DNC, et cetera, et cetera. Governor, I can't imagine I could show you a piece of video where you'd have more disagreements with one 2-minute segment. But where do you think all this is regarding the president and Epstein? What are your unanswered questions? Where do you think this story is headed that the American people might be concerned?
Yeah, I think most people want to know why, if you released 50,000 pages, that you didn't have any of the 1,000 emails that mentioned you. I mean, 1,000 emails mentioning Donald Trump is a lot of emails. Honestly, Mark, you know, there's so many horrible things that this administration does. And I've never been one that was in that QAnon chamber.
Yeah.
So I suppose I was a little blind to how many of my neighbors like bought hook, line, and sinker that there was a cabal of wealthy Democrats involved in a pedophile ring, and, you know, wearing red shoes and drinking baby blood and all of that sort of stuff. But it would appear that a large portion of President Trump's most loyal following are seriously rubbed the wrong way by all of this. And so, I mean, when Marjorie Taylor Greene parts with him, I think it means he's got some major problems. I mean, between you and me, why it was this and not something else that broke the straw on the camel's back, I don't know. I can tell you, I'm a Democrat. I've never been to Jeffrey Epstein's house. There are a lot of people this guy hurt, a lot of lives he wrecked. And for the president to continue to call it a hoax is despicable and in keeping with his low character as a human being.
Is there something you can think of in American history that's comparable to this story?
No, I don't think so. Can you think of anything? I mean,
nope. I've been trying to. I can't think of anything. There's just something
back
about
in
it.
the good old days, it was an affair or kickbacks from wealthy people, but now we're in a different sort of weird, creepy place.
Yeah. Do you know Larry Summers? Is he somebody you know?
He's not somebody I know, but when I ran for president, I said he would not be involved again in
in your administration. Well,
I'm sure he was waiting for the phone call, mind you, but
you know Senator Warren of Massachusetts. You know her.
I do.
Yeah. So today she represents Larry Summers, Massachusetts, and Harvard. She said this, number 6. She said Larry Summers' professorship shouldn't be there. Elizabeth Warren says Larry Summers shouldn't be trusted to teach at Harvard after Epstein emails. Senator says the Harvard University professor showed poor judgment in his correspondence with the sex offender. There's a lot in the documents already released that show the two of them emailed quite a bit. Is that something you sort of think is a good idea, bad idea? Need to know more that a senator would say Harvard shouldn't associate with the professor because of his associations?
Yeah, Mark, I'm never shy to tell you something if I think I know what I'm talking about. I have
Yeah,
not read any of the emails
yeah,
involving Larry Summers, Bill Clinton. Uh, I haven't honestly read the Trump emails. So I know kind of what I hear in passing in television and radio on this horrible case, but I haven't read the emails with regard to Larry Summers. I
okay,
do know Elizabeth Warren to be a very thoughtful and uh, an insightful person. So I think when she says something like that, I don't
yeah,
obviously find that newsworthy, as I think a lot of people will,
yeah.
because it's such a an intelligent legislator.
Yeah. A few more questions for the governor and then to you also. Again, if you want to be in on the conversation, please raise your hand. Um, how well do you know Governor Newsom of California?
I know him pretty well,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you why. Uh, we both had the highest jobs in elective office in America. We were both mayors at the same time, and a man who befriended me when I was elected mayor at the age of 36 with more hair and more of it black. Uh, I was the beneficiary of a very wise former mayor of Baltimore named Tommy D'Alessandro Jr. His father was also mayor, and his sister went on to become, in my opinion, the greatest Speaker of the House that's ever served in the United States of America. Although I love Tip O'Neill too. I'm looking at his hand right over there. So, because of that, when Gavin Newsom was elected mayor, roughly a year later, I think, maybe two, uh, Nancy Pelosi said, "You've got to come to Baltimore and you got to hang out with Mayor O'Malley. My brother's very high on him, and he's doing some cool things with 311 for all city services and with doing performance measurement for cities on service delivery." And Gavin Newsom came for a couple days. We've been friends ever since, served in different offices separately. And certainly as mayor, he took some of the things we had learned how to do and applied them in San Francisco and did it with integrity. And then I had the honor to be out there when I worked for Grant Thornton, which was a large accounting and advisory company. I worked for Grant Thornton for about 6 years, and I had occasion to interact with Governor Newsom's cabinet, and they were top-notch people.
Yeah.
Uh, Gave him kind of impressions and hot wash after many of those meetings. It was pretty early in his administration, 2 years in, but I was hugely impressed with the caliber of people, as you know from following, the effectiveness of executive leaders. So much depends on that leader's ability to surround herself or himself with really good people and to keep them.
Yeah. Have you followed his gubernatorial record enough to say whether you think he's been successful as a governor?
I have, and I think he has, and I think he was certainly, I applaud him for doing what he did on redistricting. I know that that's not easy, especially when you have an electorate that already decided once, not so long ago, that they wanted to go to a nonpartisan redistricting commission. But these are unprecedented times, and I'll tell you, Mark, when he spoke directly into the camera when Donald Trump was sending federal troops against our neighbors in Los Angeles, I thought it was pure, honest, truthful, and came from obviously was coming through him. Uh, and so I think he
Yeah.
is. I think he's a really, really important leader for our
Yeah.
times here right
And
now.
he's your friend, and I thought I remembered that, and as you probably know, if you ask your normal Democratic governor, normal meaning more often than not, uh, they'll say Gavin Newsom's not particularly friendly to them, doesn't really have a kind of close relationship with them. And as you know, a lot of people look at your friend and someone who I respect and say he's a phony, he's a failed governor. Uh, what do you say to? What would you say? What do you say to the people who think he's a phony and egotistical and a failed governor? What would you say to those people? 'Cause it's a pretty widely held view, even amongst some Democratic governors.
Yeah, well, a couple things. California, what are they? It's the most important state in the union, larger than New York, right? I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
if you looked at it as an economy, it's what the 10th largest
No,
economy
fourth or fifth.
in fourth or fifth. It's on the cutting edge of, you know, it seems like every time you open your eyes, California's going through a different type of climate related disaster, one after the other. I believe that he's been actually very effective. Uh, where is the politician that doesn't have a, self-confidence or ego? The good ones learn how to harness it, and if they weren't a strange blend of ego and humility, they wouldn't grind themselves through a process like this. But it's also true, and this was true mostly in the U.S. Conference of Mayors as well. Uh, the governors of California and the governors of New York don't usually spend a lot of time rubbing elbows with the governors of Delaware, South Dakota, or Maryland.
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you a true story. It's kind of funny, actually, especially since Arnold is going through, the Netflix series, which is fascinating, by the way. But when President Obama was, and I never get a long format like this, so thank you for the indulgence.
Thank
When
you.
President Obama was first elected, to the point that the California's governors and New York governors don't rub elbows as much as the other governors do. President-elect Obama wanted to see all of the governors. He knew the national governors were meeting in Philadelphia. He wanted to see us with his flair for history in Congress Hall, up where George Washington presided over the Constitutional Convention. And so we all met there. We were all told no staff, no executive protection. You all have to be on the bus. No exceptions. So we all got on the bus. You can't bring your black SUVs. We'll bring you back to the hotel. So we all got on the bus, and you know how the story ends. Just as we're pulling up to Independence Hall or Congress Hall, Arnold zips around the bus in his giant Hummer, pulls right up to the curb, jumps out with himself and his executive protection detail and goes into the place. So it's not unusual for the governors of New York and the
Yep.
governor of California to not rub elbows as
Yep.
much as the other governors should.
I've experienced that, and that goes to the personality thing. California has, some would say, the highest in the nation, but very high prices for housing, for electricity, for water, high taxes. That's just factual. Would that be something some folks should evaluate if they're thinking about Gavin Newsom if he wants to run for president? Or those?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
new app out there, Mark. It's called America's Pulse, and I've been
yeah.
involved with John Bernard in creating this. And what we
Uh-huh.
look at are 50 outcomes for states. If you're somebody like the Cato Institute or the Tax Foundation, the only thing you look at are taxes. But if you consider, what are the things that we believe our government should be all about? What are the things that we believe are the deliverables, if you will, the goods of the republic that make a republic worth having and worth being a citizen, the highest title, and paying taxes? I think if you look at many of those quality of life things, uh, and earnings, income, median income. I think California and quality of life, public health. I think California, there's a reason why it's the fourth or fifth largest economy in the world. And others may say, oh, you can get lower taxes in wherever, Alabama or Mississippi. Yeah, well, that's great, but that's not where, if you're talking about the jobs of the future and a more highly skilled workforce, I think you have to look at other things besides just taxes.
Yeah. Okay. Last question, then a quick break, and then questions from the community. If your friend Gavin runs for president, would you support him?
Mark, it's way too early to make a commitment in a presidential
Yeah.
cycle. I'm focused on doing all I can to help the Democratic Party put the brakes on this runaway authoritarian train that's driving up costs for everybody, healthcare, that's messing with Medicare, messing with Social Security. And so for my part, I'm going to be out there wherever two or more are gathered to defend Social Security. I'm going to be at
Yeah.
those
All
halls.
right. I'm going to mark you down. I'm going to mark you down as maybe and tell Governor Newsom you said so. All right. All right. A quick word from a sponsor. Been back to Governor O'Malley. Another Black Friday discount, 30% off everything on Brick House to help make you healthier. BrickHouseSale.com. Promo code. Oh, no, right to the website, BrickHouseSale.com. Doctors have Black Friday sales, turns out. Martin O'Malley doesn't need this because he's a healthy specimen. But for those who do, the doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition are having a big Black Friday sale, 30% off most impressive health and wellness products available, 30% off, like lean. We've told you about lean before, help you lose weight without injections, 30% off creatine, designed just for women to help you look leaner in shape and toned. And then finally, Field of Greens, the only superfruit and vegetable drink shown in a university study to actually slow aging. Martin O'Malley doesn't need that, but everyone else might. All of this.
I'd get Field of Greens.
All right. All of this available to you. Every Brickhouse product right now. Better sleep, superior collagen, 30% off. Hurry, this Black Friday sale will end soon. BrickHouseSale.com. Save 30%. Again, BrickHouseSale.com. You don't need a promo code. Just go to BrickHouseSale.com and it's right there for you. All right, here we go.
In a public office, I could accept the free.
You could. Well, all right, we'll see if we can arrange it.
Thing.
Here we go. Private Citizen O'Malley, meet Professor Kenny. Professor, unmute, tell folks where you are and what's on your mind for former governor of the great state of Maryland, my home state.
Hey, thanks for having me on again, Mark. And Governor O'Malley, nice to speak to you. I have a question for you about the current mayor of Baltimore, Brandon Scott. I'd like to know what you think about him as the mayor and his approach to crime as opposed to your approach to crime when you were mayor, which you had a no tolerance policy, and he has a totally different policy about community outreach and stuff, and his crime numbers seem to go down. And of course, your crime numbers went down too, to give you credit for that. So I wanted to ask you that. And then a quick sidebar, what did you think of the show of The Wire while you were mayor of Baltimore?
Yeah, people often ask me about, and what school are you a professor in, Professor?
I'm a professor at the College of Staten Island, which is a city university in New York, and I teach film. I'm a film professor.
Gotcha. So you have more right to ask me the Wire question than anybody.
Yes.
So here's the straight up answer to that. Sometimes people ask me if there's any character in The Wire that's based on me, and yes, Omar, the really smart.
Where's the scar on your face?
Yeah, his good attributes. Yeah, they were me. So let me go to the more serious question. Baltimore. When I was elected mayor, we had become the most addicted, violent, and abandoned city in America, with a greater population loss even than Detroit in the 30 years before. So bad that they had done a series of TV series about our inability to shut down any open air drug markets. And so against two more popular African American candidates, I won all 6 districts. And it was with the promise that we would shut down open air drug markets. And we did. And as you noted, for the first time in that first year, for the first time in 20 years, we got homicides under 300. And then when I was governor, we were able to back up the city and Mayor Sheila Dixon in making and doing other tactics and strategies, because it's always evolving. Right now, we're seeing in America, including in Baltimore, I think Baltimore's headed to a 55-year low in homicides, with only about 2/3 of the police that we had when I was mayor, and President Clinton helped us get an additional 200 police officers. So the things we did at the time were necessary things that needed to be done. People that lived in poor neighborhoods didn't deserve to have drug dealers shooting up their children's corners. But everything, tactics and strategies always have to change. When I was governor of Maryland, we engaged with the city and we cut juvenile homicides by 50%. We, according to the Brennan Center, we reduced our incarceration rates, population, by the largest amount of any state in America over those ensuing 8 years. So I don't know exactly what the common denominator is for Detroit, New Orleans, Baltimore, and other big major cities to be seeing their homicides reduced to an all-time, to a 55-year low. But I think, we should all be grateful for it. I know we are here in Baltimore. At the same time, we've seen overdose deaths skyrocket. I don't know whether that's merely a correlation or whether that's causal. When I was mayor, the working assumption was the hitmen and the really violent drug dealers don't use their own stuff. So I don't know exactly. I don't know what's causing it, but I'm sure the mayor here is glad for it. I'm glad for it. Every citizen's glad to see the homicides going down. Uh,
Thank you, Professor. Grateful to you. Jacqueline, welcome in. Unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are. What's on your mind for Governor O'Malley?
I'm really interested in what you have your thoughts on Social Security disability programs because I was put on one in my early to mid 20s, and because I was before age 22, was put on the SSI program for people who were disabled too early to qualify for SSDI, which meant that I could not rely on a backup plan if I couldn't end up working to leave the country with the benefits, like someone with SSD, I can for at least a period of time before having to come back. And so so I realized that perhaps these regulations have to do with discrimination against the disabled, where you're seen as less capable and not capable of advancing and being independent. Because I later became much less disabled because of medical advances, which is why I'm transitioning out of SSI. And so I'm just thinking, what do you think the Social Security Administration to do about how there are medical advances and how the disabled are becoming more able to work
Yeah.
and be independent?
Yep. Great question. Thank you for sharing all that, Governor.
yeah, there's, Mark, we were talking earlier about the surplus in Social Security being depleted sooner than we thought, and they usually combine the two parts of the program, both the retirees, the OASI, as well as the disability. The truth is, and tell me your name again. I'm sorry, Lily, is it?
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline, excuse me. So, Jacqueline, because of not only advances in science, but also advances in society, the health of the disability aspect of the program is actually, financially anyway, in better shape than the other one in terms of long term. Uh, and we were seeing for a time declining numbers of people applying for the disability program. And that's, hats off to Tom Harkin and the advocates and everybody else, as well as advances in our society, realizing that because somebody has a disability doesn't mean they can't be a super valuable employee and bring a lot to the workplace. Um, so there is a periodic review that Social Security is supposed to do. It's a lot harder to do those periodic reviews with fewer staff now. But Mark, depending on the nature, and Jacqueline, as you know, depending on the nature of your disability, you're either going to get called in for a reconsideration every, 18 months to 3 years, every 3 year to 5 year, if you're, or 7 years or more, if you're not likely to improve. And there's the various grades of it. So I'm not, I think the call of your question is how do we improve this program? Is that what you're asking?
Just how do we balance the technological advances, the medical advances, with people's needs to
I'm
go
just
ahead.
saying the world is changing, and yet the same old regulations around
Yeah.
whether I can leave the country with benefits still apply, so that if I turned out to not become more able for medication, I could not have left the country for lower cost to survive.
You are going to an area of specificity that the former commissioner, I'm not, I really can't give you a good answer, an accurate answer to the question of what happens when you travel out of the country.
Yeah.
And whether you keep
Yeah,
that. I can't
it's
do that.
complicated one. Jacqueline, thank you. Another quick word in here, and then closing minutes with the governor. Governor, do you have life insurance? Is that too personal a question? You got life insurance?
I do. But what is this, Mark? This is like the Senate Finance Conference.
Yeah, exactly. Just want to run you through your paces.
All in the congressional record.
If you're not,
No man who ran for president with more college debt than I ran for president.
If you're not smart enough, like the governor, to have life insurance, consider right now going to Ethos, an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy. Protect your family's future in minutes, not months. It helps provide financial security, peace of mind. Protect your family with life insurance. From Ethos, you can get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. If you're the breadwinner in your family and you haven't taken this step, now's the time. Ethos makes getting life insurance easy, as I said. Not a complicated process, 100% online, no medical exam required. Just you answer a few easy health questions. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/two-way. Again, ethos.com/two-way. Go right now. Application times, as I say, may vary, but could be under 10 minutes, and rates may vary as well. All right, Governor, do some quick word association to end it. You gave us some nice, good answers, but now we're going to be quick. Be quick. You ready here? Mayor-elect Mamdani in New York City. One or two words.
Hope he's
Mayor-elect
successful.
Mamdani. Say again?
Hope he's successful.
Hope he's successful. Okay. Governor Pritzker of Illinois.
Ooh, really important state.
Important state. Okay. Governor Wes Moore.
So glad he replaced Larry Hogan. It was a miserable 8 years.
All right, I'm going to hold you now. One or two.
His wife, super sharp.
One or two words. Just one or two words. Just like instant reaction. One or two words. Here we go. Scott Bessent.
Putts,
Tucker Carlson.
double putts,
Ted Cruz.
Dracula.
Donald Trump Jr.
Oh, Cretan.
Olympia Snow.
Olympia Snow.
Yeah, just trying to snap you out of your putts thing here.
I did Cretan. I did
Yeah,
double
you did.
putts.
You did. I mean that
Olympia
genre.
Snow, she
Okay.
was
How about
from
she was
Maine?
senator for Maine? How about Susan Collins, current senator for Maine? Susan Collins.
Susan Collins, very knowledgeable on Social Security.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
AOC.
AOC, super popular.
Chuck Schumer.
He's from New York.
Huh. Kamala Harris.
I like Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Would she have made a great president in your view?
She would have been leaps and bounds
Yeah.
better than what we did to ourselves the second time. Most republics don't recover from electing an authoritarian or fascist president.
What's your
democracy problem?
Yeah, what's your simplest explanation for why Trump beat Harris?
My simplest explanation is a large enough slice of people felt like we were not speaking to their economic pain and concerns. And so they hit the refresh button. And now they're seeing those pains growing even worse. And that's why they're coming back to us.
What's the nicest thing you can say about Donald Trump?
Golly. I suppose God gives every person a, human dignity, but I just find him so contrary to everything I was taught about what makes for a decent, caring, compassionate, and moral human being.
Who's your favorite member of the Trump administration and why?
Ooh, I don't have one. I guess the one I haven't read about. I mean, who's ever in charge of national parks? How about that?
Okay. What's the easiest part about being a grandpa?
Ooh, easiest part about being a grandpa, smiling.
Okay. What's the hardest part?
Getting the kid to smile back at you.
Really? How old's your grandkid?
He's 6 months.
6 months. Any minute now, he'll be smiling at you.
Any minute, he smiles at everybody else. That's the damn shame. I told my daughter I want to be reimbursed for parking at her apartment whenever I come there and the kid, doesn't smile at me, or he tends to like the women in our family better than the men.
Yeah, that's not surprised. True of his grandpa. What's the 3 best tourist attractions in Maryland?
Ooh, Fort McHenry.
Yeah.
Is one of mine. I suppose the National Aquarium, and then I'm going to go out on a limb here and tell you that the new Harriet Tubman Visitor Center near Blackwater Wildlife Refuge, which President Obama helped us get going in the last year of my time. I think that story of Harriet Tubman is especially inspiring for these times.
Yeah.
And when you're there, you get a sense of the landscape.
By population, what are the second and third largest cities in Maryland?
Second and third largest cities in Maryland. Well, You mean after Baltimore?
Yeah, that's why I said second and third.
Uh, Bowie and Gaithersburg or Rockville?
Nope.
What's the third?
You didn't get the second one right either.
Well, it used to be Bowie.
Yeah, Bowie's not in the top 10.
Really? Tell me
Yeah.
what.
Columbia has over 100,000 people,
Mhm.
and Germantown has 90,000.
That's almost Gaithersburg.
Yeah, it is. Gaithersburg has 70,000. And if you consider them one metroplex, they'd be number two. But
Yeah, I think Bowie, I do believe when I was governor, Bowie
yeah.
was
Did
like
they
number
did they
two.
change their name? Frederick's number 4, Waldorf.
Hmm.
But Bethesda has more restaurants than Denver. So, Governor, couldn't be more
It
grateful
has
to you
more
for
restaurants than many states.
yeah, couldn't be more grateful to you for spending time with us.
Yeah, glad to. Thanks for
Really,
picking me on the size of my
yeah,
sins and
yeah.
my.
And grateful to you, and hope you'll come back regularly. And when you're ready to endorse your friend Gavin, you'll do it right here on the show.
Great being with you, Mark. Good
Thank
seeing
you, Governor. Have a good evening, Grandpa. Thank you all very much for being here. I'll see you at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Right now, you can watch the premiere of Ethan Supley's program right here on the two-way platform. Lifelong. You're talking about health, someone who understands healthiness. Ethan has devoted his life now, along with acting, to understanding all the ways to be engaged with health. So right now, turn over, watch Ethan's Lifelong here on the two-way platform, and I'll see you at 9 a.m. tomorrow on the morning meeting. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Governor. Good night.